Okay, we're going to get started. I want to welcome everyone to our Community of Practice webinar series. My name is Cesar Mickens, and I'm from Jobs for the Future. And you guys are really in for a treat today. We're going to have a really great discussion on implementing middle and early college practices in traditional high schools. So welcome again. Just a couple of things we want to go over fairly rapidly so our fantastic presenters can begin. We need everyone to mute your microphone unless you're asking a question, and the presenters will query you for that. But we hear a lot of background noise, so if you would please mute your microphones, we would truly appreciate it. We also want everyone to know that this webinar is being recorded, so just wanted you to know that so we wouldn't have any challenges. Thirdly, use the chat feature to send questions or comments directly to Emily, who is going to be running this webinar. So just use that feature to ask questions throughout the discussion, and they will also query you for questions. But just to let you know, you can communicate with her at any point, and she will pass the questions off to the presenters. Finally, we just wanted everyone to make sure they visited the Community of Practice, the sponsors of this webinar series. You should register. Some great stuff on here. In fact, this recording will be on attached to this webinar, so you'll be able to view it or send it to friends. But we really thank you for being a part of this fantastic series that we're getting ready to do. So I'm getting ready to transfer control of this webinar to Ms. Emily Riddle, who will be running the presentation from here on out. Emily, you now have control.
All right, give me just 1 second here.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, everybody should be able to see everything.
For this edition of the Season Sequence webinar series, this afternoon's topic is the College Direct School at CSNC.org. We're going to take a look today at an e-course that can greatly assist your students who may not have perfect college.
We have too much background noise, everyone.
For those of you who are already on the webinar, and for any reason you have questions or comments related to technical difficulties or to the material that we covered today, I definitely invite you to your attendee control.
Emily.
Your questions or comments in the questions.
Can you control that?
Emily, you're in the presentation mode, and it's a lot of background noise.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that is.
Electronically, so you can do that.
Okay.
There's some kind of recording in the background.
Yeah, somebody's got.
Right.
That's not us.
Webinar today, if you wanted to do that, you can also put this presentation in full screen mode, and you can completely that.
I don't know who to mute. So if everybody just make sure to mute your line.
And get started. My name is Rolak. I'm the Director of Professional Development.
I think there's another webinar going on in the background.
Yeah, it sounds like something else is happening. This is not. Let me try to fix this.
Oh, dear.
Okay, whatever happened, that's it.
Yay. Okay.
All right, everybody. Okay, that works.
Sorry about that, everyone.
Great. Okay, so so happy to be with you today. This is Elizabeth Barnett, and Cece Cunningham and I are presenting this webinar today. We'll introduce ourselves more officially in a moment, but the title of today's webinar is Implementing Middle and Early College Practices in Traditional High Schools. And the reason that we wanted to present on this topic is that we've been working in advancing middle and early college high schools for many, many years, and strongly believe in them, but realize that there are limits to the extent to which they can be scaled up if they're going to be small schools that are located on or near a college campus. So today's webinar is looking at how a lot of the middle and early college practices can be implemented in traditional high schools. So, Cece, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Good afternoon. I see some friends on here that I've known for a long time. Terry, you might want to put your wine glass down. I'm the director of the Middle College Consortium. We are a network of middle colleges. We're almost 25 years old. There's about 50 in the network, and we've been working for many years trying to improve access to college for all of our young people who are identified mostly as in need of financial aid and first generation. And I'm the lead in the project in Michigan right now, and Elizabeth will tell you more about that.
Okay, so I'm with NCRES, the National Center for Restructuring Education, Schools, and Teaching at Teachers College at Columbia University. We have partnered with the Middle College National Consortium for over 12 years and with a number of other groups that are working on developing middle and early college high schools. And a lot of what we've done in the past is provide data services, so helping them to understand how their students are doing. Today we're going to be talking about, our longer-term experiences, but also our more recent experiences as part of the STEM Early College Expansion Project. And that project is something that we're doing in partnership with Jobs for the Future and also with schools in Michigan and Bridgeport, Connecticut, and we'll tell you more about that in a minute. But first of all, I think probably most people on this call know why middle and early colleges are important. But just to reiterate and to remind you of some of the research that supports our belief, there are only limited number of approaches out there that can really make a difference for traditionally underserved students. And middle and early colleges are a proven, rigorously researched model that does that. I think many of you know that students who come into middle and early colleges, have opportunity to participate in college courses. They're well prepared to enter those college courses. They receive lots of supports, and they benefit from the partnership between the high schools and the colleges. So this is just showing you the demographics from around the country. This is information provided by Jobs for the Future, and you can see here that middle and early college students are mainly from groups traditionally underserved in college, mainly Latino and Black, and they're mainly students who are low income, and the majority are the first in their families to go to college. So students are being served that were the targets of this model. And as I mentioned, the model gets good results. So, this is just one tidbit of information showing that graduation rates are much higher in early and middle colleges than in other schools around the country. But this is just straight up graduation rates, and many people will say, well, these schools are recruiting the students who are the most motivated, who have lots of advantages, whose parents are willing to sign them up to attend a school like that. So research by AIR and SRI was done that used a random assignment design, so an experimental design. Basically, it was taking advantage of the fact that some middle and early colleges accept students by lottery. So they compared the students who came in through the lottery system with those who applied to enter the schools but weren't able to be accommodated. And they got they found very positive results with students, more likely to graduate from high school, considerably more likely to enroll in college, and at the end of 1 year, not surprisingly, 21% had a college degree. And one of the things that I find most compelling about their research is that the positive outcomes that were found with early colleges did not differ based on gender, based on race, ethnicity, family income, first generation college status, or pre-high school school achievement. So that's, you know, pretty impressive. We wanted to show you a little bit about what students have done who are in Middle College National Consortium schools. As I mentioned, we've been collecting data for quite a while, and this is just to give you a sense of, you know, what can be done with students when, you know, when you have the full middle early college model. So this just shows that over a long period of time, almost all the students in the graduating class had college course taking experiences. It went down a little bit at the end because there were a couple of new schools joining where they weren't able to bring in all their students yet. And students were also able to earn lots of college credits. So, you know, there were an average of, you know, 30 to 33 credits earned by students at the end of their 12th grade year, which is more than a year's worth of college credits. And, you know, that's giving them a serious head start on college and saving them money as well. And finally, the students in these classes were earning a solid, you know, 2.6 to 2.8 average GPA across the students in these schools, which is, you know, good. It's, you know, very, very good average, showing that they were not only taking college courses but being successful at it and, you know, able to carry those credits forward into wherever they went to college next. And, you know, there are lots of different student quotes that we could include, but we just thought we'd share one here from a student at Washtenaw Technical Middle College in Michigan, just saying that the teachers made it clear right from the start that they expected a lot of me and my fellow students. They combined this with a genuine respect for our abilities to meet challenges. So we talked, you know, we mentioned the CSEP project, the STEM Early College Expansion Project, and with this project what we're trying to do is offer schools the opportunity to develop middle and early college practices within their schools, including, you know, blended high school and college curriculum and authentic college experiences, but also to do that with an emphasis on STEM education. So it has these dual purposes. The STEM education is something that we're focusing on a lot, although we won't talk about it as much in this presentation. But we've been really excited about not only the fact that students are learning well in STEM fields, but also that instructional practices are changing because of the increase in projects, you know, hands-on learning, critical thinking, and so on. So that will be a webinar for another time. Who's involved? We have 4 intermediate school districts in Michigan, which work with 11 actual school districts, 12 high schools, and their feeder schools, their feeder middle schools. And in Bridgeport, Connecticut, we have almost the same number of students participating in 1 large school district with 3 high schools and a number of middle schools. And all this is being done using a set of design principles. So each school develops the project slightly differently, but everybody adheres to these same design principles. So developing a college-focused academic program, a set of student supports, collaborative relationships across high schools and colleges, and then a culture of continuous improvement.
Well, I mean, any news that I have.
So what can traditional schools do? Basically, you know, full middle, early college, high schools, you know, set up their curriculum, they provide supports, and they set up a pathway so that students can earn at least 24 college credits. Well, traditional schools can do a lot of the same things, although in most cases, you know, students won't have quite as many college credits when they graduate. However, they'll have a lot of the same benefits that come from experience in college and accruing a certain number of college credits and having support as they begin their college experience. And the focus of today's webinar, and Cece is going to lead on this, is really how to make that happen, how to make sure that students get access to college courses, and how schools set up systems that overcome typical challenges. And there's nobody, I would say, in the country who knows more about how to do this than Cece. So while we're transferring to CC leading, we'd like to give you a poll, though. So does everybody see this, that there is a poll on the screen where you can answer a question? So we want you to vote for what your biggest challenge is to offering more dual enrollment in your school or college or district, and just pick one and vote for it. At the same time, while you're doing that, we'll give you a minute. If you have any questions about anything we've talked about so far, or any comments or reflections, please type that into the chat box.
Okay. Elizabeth, while you were talking, you cut out.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Or was it me? Emily?
Yeah, it's a landline, so she should be pretty solid.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, she was fine. She didn't cut out on me.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Has everybody seen the polling questions?
Mm-hmm.
We still have a few people to answer.
And if anybody's wondering, to answer the question, you just click on the answer you want.
And then submit in the right-hand corner. All right. Maybe we could, while we're putting that together, we were going to cut it off at a minute, right?
Yeah, can everybody see can you see the responses?
No, I can't yet.
Once I close it, they'll be able to see it. So.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and close it?
Okay. There you go.
Okay. So, Cece, you want to go ahead on that?
So that's kind of interesting. D was the college, what was D? College offerings or rules. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. I might put it with cost, but getting a college partner in this is very difficult. And the college rules and so on also, I would say, have to do with the students are underprepared and they don't pass the tests. So if this is very helpful though, but let's start with cost. Elizabeth and I were back and forth about whether we should just go right to what's rated the highest, but we had set up these questions beforehand. So cost, you can hear me?
Yep.
Cost, the biggest challenge, well, a big challenge is who pays the tuition. And we have lots of examples around the country of districts paying the tuition. Obviously, the college waives some of it, and the state has incentives. What we don't want are for parents or students to absorb this cost, because our goal is to give the students at least a year of free college. I think that there's lots of research that shows that, in fact, students that start college, be it AP classes or dual enrollment or international baccalaureate, have a much better chance of finishing college than those that don't. So the district, in order for the district to pay for it, currently it really should be a dual enrolled class, like in Michigan. The state won't incentivize the districts unless they're sure it's dual enrollment. So, of course, there are issues around then whose job is going to be lost if, in fact, a college teacher teaches an English 101 instead of a senior class of English. And that's why when you start to work with a community around this, you have to be very clear and get buy-in at the beginning that, in fact, this is not like adding the band or a art class. This is a change in expectations and the way young people do school. And then you find the money afterwards. So I urge you not to think about the cost, but think about the collaboration and the benefits to young people first. Like I said, you can go on the Education Commission of the state, and they have, by state, how the costs are paid for. If you have any questions, please feel free to stick them in here as we keep going. Okay, the next one, Emily. So what are some of the ways that you can address the costs? Some places use the high school teachers as adjunct faculty, and so they don't pay tuition, they just pay for the adjunct faculty. Textbooks are a big cost, and so, but that's a national problem around textbooks, and there have been a lot of ways recently to address that, especially with the advent of online textbooks and passing from one student to the other the code that you get. But basically, when you have a relationship with a college, the sooner that you know what the textbooks are. Yes? Sound good? Yes? Oh. The sooner you know what the textbooks are, you can buy them in bulk, and you can request that the college use the same textbook for a couple of years, so you don't have to buy any more.
Oh, great.
The other way is to have cohort classes. Instead of paying tuition one student at a time, you have an entire cohort of high school students in a college class, and you try to get a reduced rate because the high school is doing all of the programming and support. But this is controversial. There are a lot of places that feel that that's not a real college experience. So you have to weigh the benefits and the cost. Transportation, especially we found in Michigan and rural areas, a student can't get from their local area out to a nearby community college, so the community college goes to the students. Any questions? Please feel free to put them in, or comments if you have experience with this. Okay, next one. How are high school students placed into college classes in your school? Could you take a minute to do that?
And please pick the one that's most prominent at your school. I think the voting will only allow for one.
Mm-hmm. All right, so while we're waiting for that, and I'll be curious to see what comes up. We could go back and relate it to that first question, the college rules and recommendations. So usually the resistance is that the students don't pass those placement tests, and so the college can't let them in. There is, in fact, research that shows that there's no relationship between how students do on those placement tests and how they ultimately do on college. It is more likely, let's see, yes. It is much more likely that if there's a relationship between the college and the high school, having the staff make a recommendation from the high school on who's ready is a much more reliable source than the tests. And if you've worked in this community, you know that many of our students do not do too well on standardized tests for lots of reasons. And then they aren't eligible, and that's why you need to work with a college over a long period of time with students who you're sure will be successful. And that takes long-term experience. Breaking that, and there are schools around the country who actually do use staff recommendations instead of college placement. And it is because a trust is built up that the high school students are going to be successful in college, no matter what their college placement tests reveal.
Two people marked that in the poll. I wonder if they'd be willing to come off of mute and share how they've worked that out.
That's a very good idea. Would anybody like to address the issue of using the tests?
On this plan tab, and then I'm going to click, I hover over the plan, college, and then in that list, my computer's going a little bit slowly here. There we go. In the list of all the different plan for college topics that are listed there, one of those topics is college redirect. So plan for college.
You need everyone. If you're not talking, we need you to put your phone on mute. I just took everyone off of mute just in case you want to respond to CC and Elizabeth.
How soon will I hear
So, but if you're not, put your phone on or your communication device on mute, please.
advantages that on their own.
Go ahead, CC, and I'll put everyone back on mute.
Okay. So let us know if you want to contribute to this. I find that the very strict use of the college placement test equals college faculty resistance to working with younger students. And so that needs to be addressed head on. If you're going to have an early college connection with a college and between a college and a district, you have to ensure, and this is the president's role, that nobody will have to teach the high school students if they don't want to. Now, if they're in regular classes, nobody knows the difference anyway. And there are lots of other suggestions about how students can do better, how you can get around it just being the college placement. So can you go to the next one, Elizabeth? So these are the strategies that we've found in middle and early colleges and that have been successful. That students who take those assessments early and 10th grade, coupled with extra help, not just as a piece of information, they're more likely to know what's expected of them and figure out how they are going to get better at what they're doing. Faculty work on alignment is critical, and this is not in either the colleges or the high school's portfolio of work, and it's not funded anywhere. And this is where we find that use of foundation grants, local foundation grants, helps this work. And we're now hoping that a bill will pass that FIPSE will be able to fund this work. So for instance, in Buffalo, the high school faculty and the college faculty in English met, and the high school faculty started to use the college rubrics for writing as early as the 10th grade. In Michigan, at Washtenaw, there's a much closer alignment between the expectations of the math class and what's actually the math courses in high school and what is actually needed to pass the College 101. And this is controversial because math teachers feel that you have to go through every single aspect of mathematics in order to be ready to do college math. But in fact, you only need some smaller skill set unless you're going to be a math major. And unfortunately, all of what we're doing in high school, it makes the assumption that students are going to be math majors. So if everybody, the next one, rigorous courses with supports, there should be no, students shouldn't be placed based upon what is perceived as aptitude. Everybody should be in the algebra class, and everybody should be in the honors English. there should, there should not be tracking in high schools. And when students are falling behind, then the only thing to do, or if they're not catching up, is to have what we sometimes call sidebar classes, extra help for those classes. But there shouldn't be a choice between an honors cohort and a regular cohort, because students tend to, like water, seek the lowest point. And if parents aren't pushing them to do harder, or the students don't have the intrinsic motivation, that's what will happen. And our job is to make sure that every student is motivated to do better. And then helping students dream. As soon as possible, there should be activities in the high school, in the 8th grade even, where students are visiting colleges, where they're finding out where their teachers have gone to school, what jobs lead to what. In many cases, our students are unaware of the possibilities that are there for them. And of course, the possibilities have changed so much since the majority of the teachers have been in school, that this needs careful scaffolding. It can't be left to incidental work by teachers, but it needs scaffolding as early as possible so that every student has the opportunity to be well prepared for rigorous work. Any questions? Okay, next one. So, the college placement test. There's a synergy around this. Students may not know what's expected of them, but when they figure that out and they're placed in situations where they have to work harder, sometimes they come back to work harder to gain the skills. So that's why it is important in a relationship with the college, you find what we call co-requisite classes. Classes where the placement tests are not required. Because just the experience for a 17-year-old being in a class, let's say at 5 o'clock, with lots of working people in a economics, actually psychology or sociology don't usually have the prerequisites. That helps to change their self-image and their sense of agency about being able to do the work. So I would strongly suggest that you find the co-requisites first. So, for instance, in California, a lot of the students are in art classes, drama classes, as their first experience. And that, of course, though, means that it's dual enrolled, and it means there will be less art and music or drama in the high school. So these are the choices a community has to make. It is about what values the community has for their young people. And I think that's why it's easier to do a standalone new school in an urban area that has a big catchment area than it is to work in rural or suburban areas where there is a lot of tension over where the resources should be placed. Any questions? All right. What are workarounds? So, there may be some faculty at the college that are willing, or especially a department chair, that would be willing to work with you because you have a relationship in the community and might be willing to take a chance on some students in a college class that would otherwise not be, they would not be eligible for. And this takes a lot of relationship building, and it also means that you don't take no for an answer. And, the whole developmental education community right now is under attack at the college level. It is a department in itself, and yet there are major concerns around the country in colleges that students get stuck in that, and they do not ever find their way out of them. So doing some tech prep courses that are aligned with college work is another good workaround. Internships, finding what I'll call the poorest points in the college. When I work with a college, I often ask them to identify what are their strongest points and their strongest curriculum and their strongest areas, and then ask them to see if we can't allow some high school students to participate in that. And that starts to overcome the barriers. Any other questions? Any comments by my colleagues? Elizabeth and Caesar, you want to chime in? Anybody from Michigan?
No comments from me, CC. You've done a good job. Great.
Okay. How about anybody from Michigan who's working through this right now? Just put in chat that you want to talk, and Emily will get you hooked up. Okay, so the next one. All right. What is the main reason why your students struggle in college classes? Could you take a minute to answer that? I hope no one can hear any background noise here.
There's a little something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I heard a lot of pots and pans and stuff. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm done.
All right, can we see what we have so far, Emily?
Yep.
Okay, time management. Wow.
Wow. It's unanimous.
Clear.
Yeah, it is. It's just about unanimous.
Yeah.
So your sense, what I get from this is that your sense is that your students can do it, but that they're kind of overwhelmed by the time management issues. Although there's a lot of people that didn't answer at all, maybe because you don't have experience with it yet. So
Yeah, CC, let me just add something here because I think that's really interesting, and that's one of the reasons we're looking at pushing down a college experience course in the 9th grade, so what would be included in that course would be time management, which would not only help them with college preparation but also high school preparation. So we're trying to push that course down as low as possible and not wait until the 11th or 12th grade. You know, it's too late then as far as we're concerned, but to try to give them that experience early on.
Mm-hmm. So I wish I had another question here, which is how many of you live with a teenager? And because, as you know, in that, you know, especially a lot of the brain research now, you know, that frontal lobe is you know, sorting out neurons and discarding some unnecessary ones. And so it is, in general, a very difficult period for young people to gain what those executive skills are. So, and especially when the culture of a high school is not exactly geared for that. If everybody's at the same level and not finishing their homework and not getting into some classes on time, that behavior gets mimicked. And so more than anything, this is a reason to start them in a college class where you change the cultural norm around them. They're with older people, and they begin to see themselves in a different context. And then these study skills classes start to make sense. These time management issues absolutely start to make sense. They should accompany rigorous work at the same time. So the student is sorting through, how am I going to get that, how am I going to have enough time to study for that, instead of, as we all know, spend all their time on the computer. on the social media, and it's crucial that now, having been a high school teacher my whole life, it's not that I didn't deal with this, right, all the time, but we understand in high school that, in fact, students are in this emerging place right now, and so there is this push and pull. You know, how much do you demand and how much do you let them, you know, be a little kid and give them another chance? But it is absolutely critical that these time management, the issues of independence and self-confidence be dealt with by high school teachers while the kids are actually experiencing a challenge outside of the high school, like work, like going someplace, and that time is spent helping the students unpack that and figure out how they're going to manage this new set of demands on them. I'm happy that that's the issue rather than poor academic skills. There's a fundamental, unless of course you're saying that the students all pass the college placement test and then they don't do well. So they have to do well. They can only do well at 15 and 16 while their brains are developing. They can only do well with the support of an ally teacher who's like their coach. So you want to go to the next one, Emily? Okay, so we do, in the middle colleges, we do a great deal of support. The students all have a connection with well, first of all, there's an understanding among the staff that is very cultural and you know, is supported in our network of schools, that a relationship with the student is the way that you're able to gain the most academic press with a young person. I know Jackie Ansys is sitting in the back here on this call, and her book about that is really a very good read. It is, the relationship is what allows you to ask and demand. So it's important that everybody who works in a situation like this understands they're not just teachers of a subject, but they're teachers of the students. Our schools have advisors, which actually helps young people to establish relationships with an adult over a long period of time. And I think both of these things can absolutely be expected in regular high schools, but they need some cultural changes. And the advisory, guidance advisory, is where students learn an awful lot about the college application process and what's expected of them. And again, that has to be made explicit with young people. And then the seminar. So we never let young people start college without a seminar at the same time. A seminar taught by a high school teacher who has maybe the subject area expertise, maybe not, but it helps them to unpack assignments. It helps them with time management, learning to follow a syllabus. There is definitely a transition between the way high schools are laid out, just the syllabus alone, and the way colleges are, and somebody has to be a translator for young people. Otherwise, it will, the only kids that will take advantage of the early college and succeed are the students who would do it anyway. So this is these three parts of this, you know, the challenge that you laid out as time management are essential to scaffold for young people. Any questions?
Yes, we have one question that would like you to explain what seminar is. Okay,
so seminar is a class, and depending on your students, it's offered maybe once a week, twice a week, maybe every day. So let's say you're just starting students in the 10th grade and they're taking college classes. So at some point during the day, you build in a period where they're meeting with a high school teacher who's helping them prepare for the classes. It goes from as intense, as every day to ultimately independence. But in that first college experience, it's critical. So it's a class. It has a curriculum that's part responsive to the students' needs at the moment. They need to get a paper done, to make a presentation. And there is a curriculum that matches the college readiness curriculum, College 101, that you see in most colleges. So let's say that you want to offer every single student of College 101. You can call that your seminar. The only thing is I would offer it concurrently with the college classes so that the students bring to the class the problems they're having, like how to even begin a paper. And I should say that you learn so much about colleges. There was one student who brought in a paper. He was doing a class in multiculturalism, and the assignment was to go to a gay bar, and he was 17, and record the interactions. I mean, the assignment was ridiculous, but nobody ever knows that unless, you know, somebody's watching. And colleges are not watched. The teachers are not expected to hand in their assignments. The syllabus, yes, but not the assignments. So it unpacks a great deal about the assumptions we have about college work, definitely.
We have another question. Can curriculum examples be shared?
Yes, I've got a couple of them. Yes. I think I have two of them, from International High School and Middle College. And yes, I will put them on. And we're talking about high school curriculum now, not the standard college curriculum. Okay?
Yeah.
And I will post those next to this recording on the COP also, CC.
Okay. I just have to use my computer filing skills and find them. Next one, Emily.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry. Do you see it?
Yeah, no, I can't. Have we lost contact?
Emily, it seems to be the same one. Are you frozen?
Are you frozen, Emily?
Yeah, student supports at the college.
Yeah, so then the next one after that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay, so these are just some logistical ideas, and probably if I could ask each of you to contribute to this, where you've had success, it would expand this knowledge base. So you've got to have schedules that work. Very difficult. And I'm not even talking about calendars, but schedules. So it's best to do college classes in the morning or the afternoon so that students have time to get from the high school to the college and then come back or go later on. And the morning is better because the college is less in use than the evening. And the afternoon, it's dead. But you need to have an ability to be flexible with the student schedule.
Yeah, CC, to that point, we had a real challenge in Boston with a program that we were doing. And the mistake that we made, I think, is we didn't coordinate the schedules with the college and the school. And so what happens is that the school is out because of whatever, parent-teacher conference, but yet the college is in, you know, and vice versa. So it really took some work for us to align the calendar so that, you know, the students would actually be in class, and they went to the college, which was right across the street. So we just had to figure all that out, which was, you know, time-consuming, but yet very important.
And so that means that the whole high school faculty has to be very cognizant of the fact that there are kids in college classes, and you don't schedule a mandatory academic trip when that's going on. And in fact, and some kids in the college classes don't participate in some of the activities in the high school. So you have to be cognizant of that, and students have to understand that when the high school's closed, the college isn't, and work around that. Like the college is closed in many places in the country in January, right? And so what do kids do at that time? That's the time to have meaningful internship places. So it also requires a creative use of personnel. Again, these are conflicting ideas in our large high schools. And so the commitment to have young people walk away with college credit in their back pocket, which saves their family money, and the experience, a successful experience that ensures they'll stick with it, requires paying attention to stuff on both sides that are not the norm. So colleges say, we do it this way, and that's the way you're going to do it. And high schools have a hard time changing, too. And that's why I suggest you start very small. Absolutely, there should be a data set, which is what we're developing in Michigan now, where both the high schools and the colleges can look at class by class, how many high school kids are in it and how they're doing, what their grades are, how many credits they're accumulating, and that data has to be owned by both the high school and the college, and it has to be used in every opportunity. That is not data that's normally sorted out. I mean, we have a couple of colleges that do that, like Contra Costa does it for all of their dual enrollment, not just for the middle college there, but it's not the way they sort data at the moment. So, and we've got lots of practice through NCREST about how to do this. Again, this access to courses. So where would I begin? I would begin with getting a college liaison in an English department or a math department to work with math and English teachers at the high school to figure out where the points of overlap and disconnect are, so that they're sure that there's alignment around the expectations. And then, as an experiment, let the kids take the test, but let them all take the college class and see if the test matters with the college class. More than anything, you need a very, very strong college leader who says, this is what we're going to do. And we have plenty of examples of leaders like that. Does anybody else have an example of what you've done to overcome the logistics like Cesar just mentioned? I'd love to hear from more from other places in the country around this.
These are people on mute.
Yes, and I'm unmuting everyone right now.
Okay.
This is Holly from Michigan.
Thanks, Holly.
Yeah. So in our community, we have a community college that is a couple miles from our comprehensive high school, and we've actually developed a partnership team that works through the logistics of many of the pieces that Cece has articulated. Transportation was also a piece, and it was really through an invitation from the community college to bring us to the table to help inform public transportation on their routes and their timing so that they could accommodate what we were trying to do. And it was through that standing partnership we have with the post-secondary that really got us a seat at the table. But we meet on a monthly basis so that we can look forward and look backward as to what logistics and challenges we've had and how we can collaborate together.
That's great. That's absolutely great. It's an example of the kinds of things that come up and the power of the joint problem solving. Somebody else want to?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Tammy. I'm also from Michigan.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi, Cece. We had, not only did we have a session where our high school teachers met with the college teachers and talked about what was needed for high school preparation for the college courses, but then we also had real devotion to the process by some people at the college who then went to all the college instructors and explained to them what this whole process was about. And I think the biggest obstacle that we ran into was that the college instructors were the ones that were worried about their jobs in this process. And so once they realized that this was a partnership and that it wasn't going to affect anyone's job, that we were all going to work together, then they bought into it, and they really wanted to do what they could to help, and they were much more accepting of high school students being part of the college courses.
So that also took a commitment from that president way up in the Upper Peninsula in the middle of nowhere, who went to her faculty and said, dual-enrolled high school students here or wherever are not going to affect your jobs. So the leadership really embraced their fear and made some promises to them, which is important that people speak out. That's great, Tammy.
We do have one comment. It says, use of dual credit courses so that high school teachers can teach the college courses within the high schools helps with the transportation issues, etc.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And so, for instance, in Louisville, Kentucky, the local foundation there paid for high school teachers to get the additional credits that were needed in their subject area so that they would be eligible to teach in college. And new schools, like in Michigan, in Lapeer County, as new people are hired, the principal is making sure that they have the master's degree with enough subject area credit so that they can, in fact, be certified. Now, NASEP, National Association of Concurrent Enrollment Programs, has a process that they have instituted to ensure that the high school teacher is, and I'm using quotes here, qualified to teach the college. So there's a whole process in place that can be used.
Yeah, and just to add to that, CC, what we're finding, especially in urban districts, that's really the only feasible model for us to use, because, you know, when you have large districts, it's just really difficult to transport people to the community college. So they're in their HR department, they're doing exactly what you just said, CC. They're really filtering now who they hire and in terms of degrees so that they can maximize the dual enrollment courses.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think the next one is our last slide. Oh, so it just has information about where you can get in touch with me or Elizabeth. I think we're 1 minute short. I hate this format. I'd love to know what you think about it. I'd love to see your faces, but at least we have interaction.
And I love this format.
We do have one question, CC. It says, can you provide info on the NACEF dual credit certification?
There's a process. First of all, look it up online. They have a process that includes a college teacher observing a high school teacher, an exchange of papers, I believe, good agreements in place about what's going to be accepted at either end. They try to make sure that it's not just for students who can pay for themselves, but that there's funding for students beyond that. So it's just another outside agency. It's a not-for-profit, National Association of Concurrent and Dual Enrollment Programs. I think that's it, right, Elizabeth? And pardon, that's it. And it provides one more level of authenticity in your conversation with the college.
CC, could you also just say a few things about your conference that's coming up in the summer?
Thank you. Thank you. The conference will be in Jersey City. You can go on to mcnc.us. It is the network of practitioners who do the presentations. They are people that are currently teaching in or guidance counselor in any or college teacher in any of our schools, and as well as all of the people in Michigan who are just beginning to take this on in large comprehensive high schools. So it's a good opportunity to network, learn some expertise, and share what your dilemmas are and get good practical advice from the field. And it's in June in Jersey City, and I think it's Friday the 25th. I don't have my calendar in front of me.
And it's a great place to come with a team from your school so that you can learn during the morning, and then there's often time for school planning in the afternoon.
And then in the afternoon, as you're doing school planning, there are plenty of current practitioners that could live in your state or anywhere else that will meet with you in the afternoon to help you.
Friday is the 24th.
24th is Friday. Thank you, Emily. All right. Oh, was that a question?
Cece, I would just like to add to your blurb about the summer conference. There is some great professional learning for teachers at that conference. I have had teachers come back with lots of great information they could use in the classroom.
Good. So because, you know, teaching, as much as we talked about the logistics here, right, and about how to do the partnerships, teaching is at the heart of this. Thank you, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate you joining us.
Yes, really appreciate your joining us.
Bye-bye.
Yes. Caesar?
Yes, sorry about that. For some reason, I got disconnected real quick, so I'm back now. Everyone can hear me, right?
And I think people are closing off.
Yeah, I think that's going to be. Did you have any last things that you want to say, CC, before?
I did. Thank you.
Okay, we want to thank everyone for participating and look forward to our next webinar. Visit our Community of Practice homepage as we put on the front of the screen, and you can get a listing of all of our upcoming webinars. I want to thank CC and Elizabeth for giving a fabulous presentation as always, and I want to thank Emily for managing the whole process. Thank you very much, and everyone have a great week.
Thanks, Caesar. Have a good night.
Take care.
Bye-bye.